It's 3:47 a.m. The man who once had everything now owns nothing but debt, lawsuits, and a name that's become synonymous with cautionary tale. His yacht sold at auction, his private jet repossessed, his so-called friends vanished like smoke. But here's what nobody tells you about billionaires who lose it all. The fall doesn't kill them, the landing does. Welcome to 2026, where we've watched more paper fortunes evaporate than any decade in history. Crypto kings dethroned, tech titans humbled, real estate moguls buried under their own empires. But this one's different, because Tim Harrington didn't just lose his billion-dollar fortune, he chose to destroy it. And the reason why will change everything you think you know about wealth, ambition, and the price of playing God. Palo Alto, California, April 2011. While Mark Zuckerberg was making college kids poke each other and Elon Musk was still blowing up rockets in the desert, a 34-year-old former Goldman Sachs analyst named Tim Harrington was sitting in a coffee shop staring at a spreadsheet that would make him a billionaire within 6 years. The gap he identified wasn't sexy, it wasn't an app, it wasn't blockchain before blockchain was cool. It was something far more fundamental. Tim realized that ultra-wealthy families, the kind with $50 million to $500 million, were stuck in financial no man's land. Too rich for traditional wealth managers, too small for the elite family offices that served billionaires. These families were paying 2% management fees for mediocre returns and getting zero of the tax optimization, estate planning, or concierge lifestyle services that the real rich enjoyed. Tim's pitch was elegant. Give me $100 million, I'll treat you like you have $1 billion. He called it Infinity Capital Partners, not a hedge fund, not a bank, something in between, a boutique family office for the almost billionaires. And it worked. By 2013, he'd raised $890 million. By 2015, $3.2 billion. By 2017, he was managing $11.4 billion in assets and personally worth $1.3 billion. But here's the thing about Tim Harrington that nobody understood until it was too late. He didn't want to be rich, he wanted to be worshipped. His clients didn't just trust him, they adored him. He remembered their children's names, their wedding anniversaries. He sent them rare wines from his private vineyard in Napa. He flew them on his jet to Davos, to Art Basel, to Sun Valley. One client told Forbes, "Tim doesn't manage your money, he manages your life." Another said, "I'd trust him with my daughter's trust fund over my own brother." But trust, as we'll learn, is the most expensive currency in the world, and Tim Harrington was about to overdraw his account. By 2018, Infinity Capital wasn't just successful, it was a phenomenon. The firm's new headquarters, a 47-story glass monument with a rooftop helipad and a marble lobby featuring a commissioned sculpture called Eternal Growth, cost $340 million to build. Tim's personal office occupied the entire top floor, his desk a single slab of petrified redwood, 12 feet long, worth $280,000. But the real magic wasn't in the aesthetics, it was in the structure. Let me explain how Tim made his billions, using a metaphor even a fifth grader could understand. Imagine Infinity Capital as a 3-layer cake. Layer 1, the foundation. This was legitimate wealth management, stocks, bonds, real estate trusts, boring, safe, returned 7 to 9% annually. This is what clients thought they were paying for. Layer 2, the secret sauce. Tim's team used sophisticated tax structures, Delaware LLCs, offshore trusts in the Cayman Islands, Singapore holding companies, to legally shield client wealth from taxes. This saved clients 15 to 25% in annual tax liability. This is what made Tim a hero. Layer 3. The forbidden fruit. This is where it gets interesting. Tim discovered that he could use his clients' capital as collateral for massive loans from European banks, loans that he then invested in ultra-high-risk, ultra-high-reward ventures, cryptocurrency mining operations, pre-IPO shares in Chinese tech companies, Argentinian farmland. When these bets paid off, and early on they did, Tim would pocket 30% of the profits and distribute the rest to clients as bonuses. Nobody complained. Everyone was getting richer. But here's the catch. Tim never told his clients about Layer 3. In legal terms, this is called commingling of assets. In human terms, it's called playing with other people's money without permission. And the loans? Those had to be repaid with interest, which meant Tim needed Layer 3 to keep winning. Forever. Spoiler alert, forever is a long time. By 2019, Tim Harrington's net worth hit $1.8 billion. He bought a $95 million estate in the Hamptons, a $40 million penthouse in Monaco, a $180 million superyacht named Hubris, which in retrospect was the most honest thing about him. He was flying 300 days a year, sleeping 4 hours a night, drinking 2 bottles of wine with dinner and starting each morning with modafinil and cold brew. His wife left him, his daughter stopped taking his calls, but the money kept coming, and when you're making everyone around you rich, nobody asks questions. Nobody except one person. Her name was Dr. Rachel Koh, Chief Risk Officer, Harvard MBA, former SEC investigator. And in November 2019, she walked into Tim's office with a 74-page report that would bring the empire to its knees. November 14, 2019, 6:47 p.m. Dr. Rachel Koh sat across from Tim Harrington and said 7 words that would haunt him forever. Tim, we're $4.2 billion in the hole. The report was damning. Infinity Capital had borrowed $6.3 billion from a consortium of Swiss and German banks using client assets as collateral. Those loans had been funneled into 47 different high-risk investments. 37 of them had failed. The crypto mining operation in Iceland? Bankrupt. The Chinese AI startup? Seized by the CCP. The Argentinian farmland? Destroyed by floods. But here's the truly insane part. Tim Harrington had been hiding the losses by fabricating returns. Every quarter, he'd send client statements showing 12 to 15% gains. In reality, their portfolios had shrunk by 38%. He was running a Ponzi scheme, not intentionally, not at first, but somewhere along the way, maybe when the first investment went south, maybe when he bought the yacht, maybe when his ego grew larger than his balance sheet, Tim Harrington crossed a line. And there's no coming back from that. Dr. Koh gave him 3 options. Option 1, come clean, notify clients, file for bankruptcy, face potential criminal charges, lose everything, but keep his freedom. Option 2, liquidate everything immediately. Sell the yacht, the homes, the art collection. Use his personal fortune to cover as much of the shortfall as possible. Maybe salvage 60 cents on the dollar for clients. Option 3, double down. Take out more loans. Make one final massive bet. If it paid off, he could dig himself out. If it didn't, well, he'd already be ruined. Guess which one he chose? He chose silence. For 6 months, Tim Harrington did nothing. He sent Dr. Koh on paid sabbatical, essentially buying her silence. He continued sending fabricated statements. He continued living like a billionaire. And behind closed doors, he started liquidating assets, not to save his clients, but to move money into offshore accounts his wife's divorce attorney couldn't touch. This is the moment. This is where greed metastasizes into sociopathy. Because Tim Harrington wasn't just stealing money, he was stealing time. Every day he delayed, the hole got deeper, the collapse more catastrophic, the lives ruined more numerous. But hubris is a hell of a drug, and Tim was overdosing. May 3, 2020, 9:47 a.m. Eastern Time. The SEC froze Infinity Capital's accounts. Within 12 hours, the story was everywhere. Bloomberg, Financial Times, The Wall Street Journal ran a front-page headline, "The Billionaire Who Stole from Billionaires." The collapse was biblical. $11.4 billion in client assets, gone. Over 340 families, many of whom had trusted Tim with their entire fortunes, woke up to discover they'd lost an average of 73% of their wealth overnight. One client, a 68-year-old former pharmaceutical executive, had invested his $120 million life savings. He lost $91 million. He died by suicide 2 weeks later. Another, a tech entrepreneur who'd sold his company and entrusted Tim with $340 million, was forced to sell his home and move into his daughter's basement. But the worst part? Tim saw it coming. In March 2020, as the pandemic began, he'd liquidated $470 million of his personal assets and transferred them to accounts in Singapore and Dubai. While his clients' lives burned, he was securing his escape hatch. The FBI arrested him at his Hamptons estate on June 12, 2020. He was charged with wire fraud, securities fraud, money laundering, and breach of fiduciary duty. If convicted on all counts, he faced 175 years in federal prison. The trial lasted 11 weeks. Prosecutors presented 3,400 pages of evidence, emails, bank statements, testimony from 67 witnesses, including Dr. Rachel Koh, who broke down crying on the stand. But the most devastating moment came when they played a recording from Tim's yacht. It was from August 2019, 3 months before Dr. Koh's report. Tim was drunk, talking to a friend, and the yacht's security system captured everything. Tim's voice, slurred, arrogant. "You know what's funny? These people, they worship me. They think I'm a genius, but I'm just a guy who got lucky and figured out how to keep the game going. As long as I keep smiling, as long as the statements look good, nobody asks questions. It's like I'm running a magic show and they're all too stupid to see the wires." That recording sealed his fate. On December 8, 2021, Timothy James Harrington was convicted on all counts. He was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison. His net worth? Minus $830 million in restitution orders. Everything he owned, every property, every painting, every bottle of wine was seized and liquidated. The man who once had $1.8 billion now had nothing but a prison cell and a legacy of destruction. So here we are, 2026. Tim Harrington is 5 years into his sentence. His daughter hasn't visited him once. His ex-wife remarried a dentist in Oregon and changed her last name. The 340 families he destroyed, most have rebuilt their lives. Some never will. But here's the question nobody wants to ask. Was Tim Harrington uniquely evil Or was he just uniquely honest about what wealth does to people? Because let's be real, every billionaire on Earth has played fast and loose with ethics at some point. Every empire has cracks. Every fortune has a body count. The difference is, most of them don't get caught. Tim's mistake wasn't greed, it was visibility. He got too big, too fast, too loud. He forgot the first rule of being rich: never let them see the kitchen. In 2026, we're living in the era of the fallen billionaire. Sam Bankman-Fried, Elizabeth Holmes, Adam Neumann, Elon's Twitter adventure, Kanye's Adidas implosion. We've become obsessed with watching the powerful fall, not because we hate success, but because we're terrified of the truth. That wealth doesn't make you smarter, or better, or immune. It just makes you more dangerous when you break.
Tim Harrington destroyed lives, not because he was a psychopath, but because he believed his own myth. He thought he was invincible. He thought the rules didn't apply. And by the time he realized they did, it was too late. The poor life of a billionaire isn't about losing money. It's about losing yourself and discovering too late that you can't buy that back, not for any price.